Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional, providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hi, Justin Daniels here. I am a corporate M&A and tech transaction equity partner at the law firm Baker Donaldson. I am passionate about helping companies solve complex cyber and privacy challenges during the life cycle of their business. I am the cyber quarterback, helping clients design and implement cyber plans, as well as help them manage and recover from data breaches.
And this episode is brought to you by Ding, Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there is greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. Well, hello. Happy Monday after the time change. How you doing?
You know I'm sore.
That is because you do too many sports on the weekend.
And I get no sympathy.
Nope, no sympathy.
I get what I deserve.
Did you enjoy your extra hour of morning sunlight?
It was nice to get up and see all the trees, and everything was very fall-like.
Yes, and then it'll be dark at like 4 o'clock. But that is for a different discussion. So today, I'm very excited because we have Olivia Rose joining us. She is a CISO and owner of Rose CISO Group, former CISO of Amplitude, Mailchimp. And Olivia is an award-winning cybersecurity leader and 3-time global chief information security officer. Olivia Rose is the founder of the Rose CISO Group, which is a boutique security company delivering exceptional vCISO board communications and strategic services to Fortune 1000 companies. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Hey, you two are a match made in heaven.
We've been doing this a little while.
You should see when we present together, which will be tomorrow.
That's on Wednesday.
Oh, is it Wednesday?
Clearly you need
to Wednesday, dear.
I do.
It's Monday. Monday. We're recording on Monday. You must be listening, people, at a different time, but we're actually recording on Monday.
All right.
And we present on Wednesday.
Fair enough.
Okay. You want to get the show on the road?
I would.
Oh, our dog does.
Yes, Hazel's ready. So, Olivia, we always like to know, how did your career evolve to where you are today?
I have no idea. And that's honestly the answer. I grew up, I never even heard of tech. I never even, of course, I mean, this was a long, long, long time ago. Never heard of cybersecurity. There were no cybersecurity classes. There were barely computer science classes in college. So I did go to college and barely graduated by the skin of my teeth by majoring in women's studies, because it was the only major that would accept me with my dismal GPA, because it was a new major and they needed people. So never thought for a day. So what does one do when you get a women's studies degree? Well, you can go into academia, but with my grades, there's no way that was going to happen. And the other option is you go into marketing, because it's all about how to position messages to different people and how to get the messages across, which has actually come in pretty handy in my career in security since then. So long story short, went into marketing, went to go work for Internet Security Systems, ISS, one of the very first cybersecurity companies out there. And it was a great time. I was in marketing. I was supporting the consultants. I was doing a lot of their reports. I looked at them and I thought, well, they make a lot more money than I do. So I want to go do what they do. It can't be that hard. So I did go. I got my CSSP. somehow the first try. This was back in 2005. Joined the consulting group. My first customer I did by myself because the person who was supposed to be training me, his wife was about to give birth and threatened him with divorce if he traveled one more time. So my first client was PayPal. I did their PCI assessment all by myself. No idea what I was doing. Shh, don't tell anybody. And there you go. Been in it for since then. So over time, 17 years in consulting, and then went in-house and became CISO for Mailchimp in Atlanta, and then CISO for Amplitude in the Bay Area. And then, quite honestly, I got burned out. So I decided to putz around and just do some virtual CISO work. And that was about a year ago, a little bit over a year. And I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, very fortunate since then, got awesome clients, and it's a lot less stressful. And I actually see my kids, so that's nice too.
Well, you know what? You said something interesting that I don't think we've ever covered in one of our podcasts is security professionals really struggle with a lot of burnout. And maybe you could help for our audience explain what makes the job so stressful.
You hear all the time about CISOs struggling, how the job is so tough. And with the recent news events about about SolarWinds, you get some of it there. But the key reasons why there's so much burnout in this industry as a CISO or a senior security leader, either one, is that unless you're at an organization that truly believes and supports security best practices and are willing to put the resources and the money and the time towards it, then you're seen as an afterthought if you're not. And you have to constantly fight for attention, fight for what's right. Oftentimes, the security function reports up through the engineering or tech, and which is a conflict of interest, because when you have critical findings from a pen test and the engineering teams don't necessarily want to put it on their roadmap, you both report to the same manager. And who are they going to really focus on supporting? They're going to focus on supporting the business rather than the security side of things. And the conflict of interest happens there when that's my boss. They're telling me not to do it. So when audit time comes around and something's encryption at rest is not in place, then what do you say? You can't say my boss told me not to do it. So CISOs are constantly stuck in this drawer and trying to get out and get attention. And when your resources are cut because you don't have any breaches, which is a good thing, well, that's just sheer luck that you didn't have breaches. It's not because you're great at what you do necessarily, but the business sees it as, well, she's doing a great job. She doesn't need to have as many people or as much money in 2024. So, we haven't had any breaches. That means we're good. But you can never say you're good at security, as you know. So all of those things together every day, a lot of burnout, unless you're very lucky and you're at a company that does support cybersecurity just as equally as the other business drivers.
So kind of on that point, because Jody and I, we wrote a book, and that's one of our themes, that both privacy and security are afterthoughts. In your experience, kind of give us, if you can, a window into the mindset of the business when it comes to privacy and security. Is it just the thought of, hey, I just don't want to deal with this, it's just another thing? Or why do you think we continue to persist in privacy and security being an afterthought?
In my experience, I have seen privacy gain some leverage because you have to post publicly your privacy policy and all these things. So security is more hidden behind the scenes than from what I've seen privacy being. But that's my experience. I think that I think the common answer you're going to get, quite honestly, is that security leaders, of course, are being blamed for that. We don't position and align security drivers and privacy drivers with the business because security people tend to be tech people. And a tech person does have a hard time knowing how to shift to the other side of their brain to position and present to non-technical leaders who own the purse strings. So that's the common excuse that you got to get. In my mind, in my experience, it is that, but it's also that what I was saying before, it's literally one of the worst industry or areas of the business to show results. I mean, what is the result from security? A good result? No breaches? That could change tomorrow. You've got, I mean, what am I supposed to say? If somebody says, how are we doing? I don't know. Great. Haven't had any breaches lately. So how do you quantify and qualify what you've been doing on the privacy and security teams? You can't quantify ROI like you can for the other functions of the business. So I think that's why it's an afterthought. If nothing happens, that's a good thing. You're fine.
It's so interesting you say that in your experience, you're seeing privacy move forward. I obviously spend a lot of time on the privacy side, and I do see that, but I often see privacy after security because so many companies think about the security measures first. Oh, I have to protect everything. And then they think, oh, I just need the privacy notice. And then I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. That is the very common philosophy that I see, especially in those Fortune 1000 level companies. It's just interesting to see. It truly does depend on the company and the culture and the leadership and where they're focused.
Yeah, I can see that. But it's what's interesting, though, is that privacy has more teeth than security does. So when something's related to money and you're going to get popped for, what was that recent one? Was it Google for like 2-point-something billion?
There's always a fine. It's hard to keep up, but there's so many.
It goes in the billions. When there's a security breach, it's kind of a stab in the air. Like, I don't know how much it's going to be, but it's going to be a lot. Money talks. I think it depends on the company, and it depends on the type of company. Tech companies tend to focus first on product and engineering, getting out the products and the features. With that comes privacy, with the data, not necessarily security. However, in other industries, it is more about security than privacy. So I think it depends where you're at. But yeah, we're both bottom of the barrel. So
it's your favorite phrase. It depends.
I know.
It depends.
It depends. You complete me.
Aww, so interesting.
Well, anyway, talking a little bit more about your current gig, can you share more with our audience about what you do and how a vCISO helps companies, and really, like, who needs a vCISO?
It's a good question. And my opinion, and I started saying this over a year and a half ago, and it's starting to come true, which I do enjoy being right, is that companies are going to stop hiring a CISO internally. And especially with this SolarWinds thing that just hit, they're really going to think twice, in the Uber event as well. They're going to start thinking twice about bringing in an in-house CISO. And the reasons really are, there's a lot of liability that you have to take on when you're hiring a CISO. It's in-house. Also, CISOs are very expensive resources for a good one who's been around for a while. Also, CISOs are a pain. CISOs are a pain in the neck because CISOs are constantly whining for attention and like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, and trying to make alliances with other teams, especially privacy and legal. That they're really difficult to have around. And they're also a very expensive team, expensive resources, expensive products and tools, processes, and we want to make changes all the time. So I think we're going to start seeing, and we already have started seeing, a shift towards outsourcing that leadership role, but maintaining and keeping the rest of the security team in-house and have them report up to a different function. Hopefully not through tech, because again, that introduces that conflict of interest. I always really like it when it reports up through the general counsel, because I've always been buddies with the general counsel. It's beautiful. Privacy and security are like besties. Yep. When you start seeing that shift, you start looking at who can then come in and be that contractual part-timer. And you also share some of that liability, hopefully not, but I've got cyber insurance and all that, business insurance and all that good stuff. And this person can come in and look at your environment holistically. So you look at the type of industry they're in. You make sure that what are the top trends in attacks that a company in that industry tends to get or receive. What kinds are successful? Different industries have different attack vectors, possibly. A lot of them are shared. So you got to look at that. And so someone who comes in and can do that and then create the roadmap, prioritize all these initiatives, actually come up with a real budget, and that they are vendor agnostic. That they're not asking for too much for their own purposes, because I don't keep the extra, right? If I ask for a budget, whereupon internally, my group does, possibly, if there's any left at the end of the year. And finally, it's someone who's been around the block. Now, the issue that people have with virtual CISOs or contractual CISOs is that most of them have never been CISOs or security leaders. The term vCISO is anybody can be a vCISO. Jody, you can be a vCISO, right?
Sure, I could.
Like this casual term.
I wouldn't, but I could.
When you have that, a lot of people can be vCISOs. Anybody can be a vCISO. Somebody who's really just been a manager on a security team can tomorrow wake up and start a vCISO company and call themselves vCISO. So you have a lot of, I'm not going to call them hacks. There are some, just like there are in every industry, but you have to know that there's a lot of confusion about who really is a vCISO and can actually help you translate to the board, who's done it before, versus those who are more operational.
Sounds to me like it's the difference between a financial advisor versus a certified financial planner who had to go through education and certifications, as opposed to someone who shows up and says, hey.
I would add to that, though, because I think I could still go get the certification, and it doesn't mean I've actually done the role. And what Olivia is offering is I could take the certification. Maybe I could even have some level of actual experience, but maybe it's a junior level experience. Now I leave and I'm just going to wear my vCISO hat. And what Olivia has experienced is actually a CISO in an organization and had to deal with all the fun and glory that comes with that and challenges, and can now package all that up as she is working with her various clients. And the same with other, vCISOs out there as well.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, unless you've been in front of the board getting questions coming at you and you have to defend the reasons why you made the decisions for the security program and structure and vision and mission, you can't do that for anybody else necessarily. You haven't been in those shoes. Now, if you're going for someone who has been a CISO in the past, yes, they're going to be more expensive. Of course.
Earlier, you mentioned about your marketing skills being really helpful in this industry. And we were just talking about being able to communicate to the board and to different stakeholders. Can you share a little bit more about maybe some of the lessons you've learned and what you apply so that other people listening could also say, ooh, those would be some really good tips. I should try that.
I say to everyone I speak with a lot of what I call security newbies. I mentor a lot of those. So they asked, what certification should I go for next? I always say you need to go to YouTube or Coursera or one of those educational online vendors. You need to take an introduction to marketing course, because marketing teaches you about how to position the messaging to the right person so it resonates. So you hit them what I call right between the eyes. So if you're in a meeting, when you're describing why you need to encrypt data at rest, even though it's only there in memory for a few seconds, let's say you need to encrypt it, you need money for this, resources, time, and attention paid to it, I position instantly in my mind the message to the engineering leader one way, but to the marketing and HR leaders a completely different way. And you have to know how to switch those messaging. You need to really pick up on what's important to each of those personas and tailor and write and convey the message differently. And marketing really helps you to learn how to do that innately. It's critically important for when you go in front of the board, you find out beforehand, okay, these two people, they have a pretty good concept of technology. I got to watch out for them. I got to be somewhat deep, but not too deep, because everybody else on the board is not technical whatsoever. They're more generalists. So when I turn and I speak to that person who's tech, I can throw in a few jargon words. And over here, I throw in, well, no acronyms. Or if I use acronyms, I spell them out. I don't assume things that they know. That's what marketing teaches you. Marketing is critically important to live and breathe when you're in security.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm always talking to our team a lot about different audiences and privacy. You're working the same thing. It's cross-functional across different types of people. And really nice idea of doing an intro marketing class. I'm going to go search for that and share it with a variety of different people who I think would benefit over time. It's a really good suggestion in terms of how to learn communication styles.
Good.
I think that's really interesting, because in a data breach situation, what I mean by that is you're going to put people under time pressure with incomplete facts to make business decisions. And I find that the forensic investigators have a really hard time translating logs and RDP protocols to business people. And so what I find I have to do on almost every data breach is I end up being the translator, because if you don't know how to explain or position your message to the business team in a way they can understand, in a data breach situation, the results can be a complete disaster, because now in a board meeting, you're not under pressure, but in a data breach, not only are you under pressure, but you have incomplete facts, and you may be working with people that you've never met before. So all the things that you talked about, Olivia, to me are magnified when you put people under pressure in a data breach.
Oh, yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. A data breach is tons of fun, right? As you know. But people also jump to assumptions and conclusions. If you don't tell them what they want to hear, they'll make their own assumptions. And then you got to steer them back while you're trying to control everything else going on over here, or the business. I think that's a great situation description of when you really need to understand when to flip, how to give people what they want to hear. And if you don't have the answer, understanding how, knowing from your marketing knowledge and experience, understanding how you think they're going to react and respond. Because people react in data breach situations. They don't respond. They don't think. So how are they going to take this? And then you pull out, right, plan B. So there you go. There's a little more food for you. Well, I'll come back in 30 minutes. Okay, we'll make it 15, 10. I'll be back in 10, right? So that's how you have to negotiate it. And the marketing helps with that.
Well, it just seems to me one of the I guess, takeaways I have from the conversation to this point is when you're doing table topping, to have a whole conversation around how do we position and explain what is going on in a tabletop, to your point about the marketing, would really help when you get into the situation, because I still find about 8 times out of 10 when I get that phone call when the house is on fire from a data perspective, they have no plan. They've never practiced. You're just going to throw a bunch of people together on a team and see what sticks.
Or they have practiced, and the company coming in to do the tabletop used all these acronyms and all these technical jargon and concepts, and nobody wants to sit at a tabletop with the rest of their executive leadership team and ask, I'm sorry, what's AES 256? What is that? I don't get it. What is that? Nobody wants to know.
AES 256. It's all about encryption. Oh, that made me happy.
So they probably did do a tabletop. They probably did do the right things because they have to do it for cyber insurance. And they also have to do it to get that nice little check mark on their SOC 2 compliance and for other things. So they probably did do it, but did it actually resonate? No.
I don't know what to do with the smile on your face.
I was just laughing. She had me at AES 256.
Oh.
All right.
So that's 1.2.
Fine.
Yeah, we're moving on.
Fine. Let's move on.
It's your job.
So as we talk about the marketing stuff, which was interesting, let's shift focus a little bit and talk about how, as a vCISO, you see this intersection between privacy and security. Because I know working with Jody, or at least when she talks to me about stuff, that you're seeing in more and more companies that CISOs are getting involved in having to have responsibility for privacy, which you wouldn't think of, but that seems to be happening. So could you talk a little bit about that intersection?
That makes sense. I think you always need to have a data knowledgeable person. I mean, you can't, if your background is in security, you're not going to pick up the world of privacy, global privacy regulations. You still need someone who knows that stuff. But there's a lot of shared characteristics between the two disciplines and the types of people who fulfill those roles. Because privacy and legal, I always say this, when you're on a Zoom call and there's like 9 or 10 windows open, your allies, whenever marketing comes up with some, we want to open up port 80 to the internet because we want to allow everybody into our network, and we don't want to slow anybody down, so no 2-factor authentication for our customers, stuff like that. There's always that look that goes in between security and legal and privacy. So I'm kind of grouping those two. You kind of share this look of, okay, we'll talk about this later. And you always have this ally, not against the business, but how to deal with the business. Because as Jody, you were saying before, privacy and security, it's always typically an oversight. It's the last step that the business is thinking about. So if they're coming out with a new product, oftentimes security and privacy are kept in the dark, which is always lots of fun. And that happened at one company I was at. It was like, what? We're doing what? And you always have to keep your ear to the ground. You have to maintain a solid, honest, transparent relationship with privacy. Because fundamentally, what you both care about is protecting the company. That is your number one goal. And security cares about protecting data. Privacy cares about protecting data. It's two sides of the coin. It's just different spins to it as to what we focus on. And people who are security leaders, who don't have that strong relationship with their legal team, I would highly recommend you start looking at building that out, because they'll often hear of things that you don't hear of, and you'll hear of things through the, sort of from a little birdie told me, that they don't know about. And you always have to support each other because fundamentally, your goals and aims for the company are pretty much the same.
I add to that security teams should also get to know their marketing friends. I recall doing a presentation. There were 100 plus security leaders in the room, and I asked how many of them would say that their friends had a good relationship with the marketing team, and no one raised their hand. And I gave them all homework that they needed to really create a relationship to get to know them, because that's how you're going to be able to work through those tough conversations and be able to get what you just said. Everyone's on the same page. So if anyone is listening and you don't have a good relationship with, maybe it's your marketing team, it could be your product team, pick the team that you're I don't know them. That's the team you need to get to know.
Yes, because they'll launch a promotion over in Europe and not think of the data that's collected or that personal data. Marketing doesn't necessarily think about where it's being stored, how long it's being stored, how it's being transmitted. It's not in their repertoire, and that's fine. That's not what they do every day. But sometimes they forget to bring in privacy and security. So yes, that's a great concept and idea. Get to know your marketing team.
Well, we talk a lot about different privacy and security aspects in a company. We always ask someone, what is the best privacy or security tip that you might offer when you're out and about with your circle of friends?
I think in this day and age, with the younger generations, there's this heavy focus on sharing. I want to share everything with the world. And, that's a beautiful thing. Go do that in lots of health. That's great. But when you're merging your personal and professional lives together, those of us who are in Gen X, of which I am one, we were raised in the workplace not to combine the two. Work is work and play is play, and never the two shall meet. You use different devices, different phones. You don't combine the two. You do your resume, you don't do it on your work machine, you do it on your home laptop. That's how we think. However, millennials and Gen Zs tend to think more along the lines of, this is a computer and I can use it. Now, the problem is when you connect your iPhone to your computer and you're connecting and you're seeing your personal text messages on your computer, and if you're even remotely connected with a breach at the company owns that laptop. They don't own your phone, typically, but they own that laptop, and they can do whatever they want with it. And I always say when I do these security awareness trainings with companies is, think, do you really want that text message that you sent at midnight last Saturday night being read out in court or being read by attorneys? And Justin, you can speak to this, right? You don't. You want to keep it separate. So protect your own privacy and protect your own data, because everything from your private life that you are putting onto work equipment belongs to the company. There's no security. There's no boundaries anymore.
That's a good one. We haven't heard that before. Thank you for sharing.
So when you're not out being a vCISO and spreading the gospel of security, what do you like to do for fun?
I'm trying to discover fun. When I got so burnt out a year and a bit ago, it took me a long time to rediscover fun. And I'm discovering fun. I'm trying to be fun again. I think spending time with my kids, of course, are fun. I'm very nerdy, and I really enjoy crossword puzzles. And I've gotten quite good. It took a few years, 3 years, because I started in the pandemic. So I'm actually can't be really nerdy and say I'm doing this for fun, but I'm doing this for fun. And I like to get into the health and the wellness. I'm getting into meditation, which is very healthy for me because I have ADHD. So it helps fine tune and tone down my brain and help me think clearer. I recently discovered or rediscovered yoga. So I'm very boring. I think I come across a lot more energetic and fun than I really am, but I'm actually very boring in real life. That way.
I don't think that's boring. I think you just know what you like. And it's not middle school or high school. There's no judgment. So if people would like to connect with you and learn more, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, they can go to my website, Rose, like the flower, Rose CISO Group.com. They can go to LinkedIn, just do a search for Olivia Rose Cybersecurity. I will pop up. Or just email me at olivia.rose@Rose CISO Group. I'm always happy to chat.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing all of your great insights. We really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I did as well. Thank you so much. It was great to chat with both of you. Be on the show finally. It took a little while with our schedules.
All good.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.